I'm Adam Holloway. I'm the author of Duty Nobly Done, and I wrote this book about my family in the Great War. 11 young men from my family went off to fight in the Great War, and my great-grandfather, his 2 brothers, and 8 cousins. And I spent 6 or so years researching it and writing it, travelled to the Western Front, and in November 2018 it was finally published on Remembrance Day. The book is about the experiences of the 11 men, from the first shots at Gallipoli to the last battles on the Hindenburg Line. The men were in a range of battalions, so I'm able to tell the story of a range of Australian battles from their point of view. I wanted to do that to make it an experience as opposed to just reading history. The highlight from the PME session today was how each officer took away something separate and was able to identify those principles of good soldiering from the book, and which, when you look back on it now, retrospectively, I can see that these are the origins of all those traits that these men and women have in the modern day army. So with the modern soldiers today, in terms of values and ethics, I would say that the very tenets of professionalism, that these men were there to do a job in the First World War and that they wanted to do it the best way they could. And I think in the modern army that we see there, that professionalism, which means that the Australians have a fantastic reputation around the world. I think mateship is definitely in our national psyche. I think it was typified by the example set on Gallipoli and then carried on to the Western Front. The way we view mateship, to even comparing it to that, I mean, the bonds that are formed in battle are so much stronger. And I think, again, it's one of those instances where we would all like it to be like that. You know, someone you can depend on and someone will always be there for you no matter what.
Adam, thank you very much. So when I think back over the last 6 years, I think back to 2014 when we started to talk about the 100-year anniversary of us joining the war. I think about 2015 we started to talk about the 100-year anniversary of Gallipoli and the 8,000 lives that we lost there. I start to think about 1916, the Battle of Fromelles, 1917 and Messines, and then 1918, the Battle of Hamel, and where we joined up with the Americans for the first time. As I was listening today and as I've been reading the book, I can't help but think what you've done is you've actually brought those aspects to life. We always like to know someone that's involved in those events, and you've actually done that. And when I was reading about Gallipoli, I often talk on Anzac Day about Gallipoli. I talk about the men climbing over the edge of the ships, getting in the rowboats, rowing towards the shore just before dawn, and then all hell breaks loose. And I felt like when I was reading your book and reading about Frank, there was like my Anzac Day speech, and it was coming to life in real person. And so from that perspective, there's an individual connection to each of us of something that we've done in our career. Even just talking about the bombs going overhead today reminds a lot of people probably of rockets going overhead in places like Afghanistan. And so there's a little bit of a personal connection for each of us, which makes the book really powerful to us, but also I think broader to just us as a military. It's really powerful for our nation. So I want to thank you for a couple of things today. First thing I want to thank you for is coming to be with us. You said it's a real honour to be with us. Well, I think it's a real privilege for us to have you here.
Thank you.
And we have greatly valued what you've said and what you've passed on and the stories of your family that you've shared. But the second thank you, I think, is actually even more important than you just being here today. The second thank you is thank you from an army for telling some of our story. So you've told of a really significant point in time in our history when we came together as an army for the first time and fought not only in Gallipoli but the Western Front, and where we lost 60,000 of our forebears. And so from an army, thank you for keeping that alive. But even more important than that, I think from a nation, we owe you a debt of gratitude that you have actually helped build our history. And we all know some of the stories of World War I, but you've just reinvigorated that for a new generation and just kept those stories alive a little bit longer and helped our history prevail a little bit longer so that we don't forget those lessons out of that war and that we all have something to link back to. So from us individually, from the Army generally and from our nation collectively, I'd say a huge thank you for your book, your time today and everything you put into the book. It does mean a lot to us, and I think it'll mean a lot to the nation. Congratulations on the book, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.